Okay, and I just took a lunch break, so I'm coming back to this a little more fresh, and I'm going to get back to it here. Again, same thing, I'm going to think about how that arm would work. And because this blade's going to go this way, I will bring back the this other arm, the cuff. Whoops. There's the cuff over here too. That arm is nowhere near where a human being's arm should be. So I'm going to take that away, or at least move it upwards. Nope, just doesn't work. Dag nabbit. This is left foot. You know what? I don't want to do this, but I gotta. I got to get rid of this whole business and rethink it in the underdrawing phase. Okay, so let me see. So it's the left foot that is the peg leg, but I think I want to see the right foot in there. So let me draw a little hip in there. Thinking about what that anatomy is going to do is, again, very important. Get rid of all of that there. There's the cuff. Here's the cuff here. And there we go. Now I'm finding it. Okay, so it was just inherently flawed at the kick-out. But now you can see this leg comes forward, this leg comes back, this foot goes here, and I feel pretty darn good about this whole bit of business. I'm going to have to just delete these guys in their entirety. You know, that underdrawing is just that. It's not meant to be a permanent solution. It's there just to help you stage what you need. So, now this looks more like fencing here. I'm feeling pretty good about this one. And I'm going to save again because, again, I always have trouble remembering to do so. I lose a little bit of the silhouette value of these swords because they don't end where the characters are going to be. That one will. Okay. And this isn't going to be quite, you know, as I would say, screen accurate because I want to make this coat a little bit shorter than it otherwise would be in order to make it clear that, you know, I can see what the legs are doing, because otherwise it's going to be probably pretty confusing. He's got these ankle boots here. But I'm still going to give that very ornate, ostentatious bit of clothing business here. Oh, and I did not realize that there's still a lot to be lost over there. So much to be lost, in fact, that I believe I'll have a little more room with which to play. One of these has to be it. There we go. So I do still like this general look here, but I'm going to move him back just a little bit. Create more space in between. There we go. Now those swords can cross the way that they should. Ha ha! All right. Okay. I get increasingly miserable when a project starts, and as I go along, I get more and more enthusiastic, because usually, as you go along, that's when things start to go right. So now I just need to make sure that the blade balances up there. There we go. All right, presto, haha. Okay. Show that these are fancy sleeves. More cuffs, and aha. So now I'm going to go ahead and lose most of the rest of this underdrawing, because, you know, now that I've got these guys, I can be a lot more specific with what my intent is going to be. Let's make sure that still works. I think it does still work. Even without that upper area, as long as this part is clear. Whoops, less clear than it was. Make sure that's pointing back towards us, and we should be okay. I think that's still clear. I think it'll still be good. Okay. So now I do the drawing on him, and I'm going to go ahead and do the actual drawing on him, because there we go. Because until that's done, the background, I'd just be redoing what I had done before, which is going to change anyway, so now I can sort of concentrate on getting his details right and basing the rest of the composition from that. Okay, so there's glove finger number 1, number 2. Big old thumb. Okay, so we'll have this glove here, followed by this nice fancy cuff, which has lace spilling out of it. Black area up here. Here's, I don't know exactly what you would call this thing, the sash. It's embroidered. Makes me think of that belt that Porthos wears at the beginning of the Richard Lester directed Three Musketeers, which, if anybody has not seen, I would highly recommend. Great swashbuckly, very funny. Okay, so now we'll do a little bit more detail work on this. Okay, there's that part, and that wraps up into this. Okay, more detail stuff. Let's see what the best way to go about this would be. Circles. Then fancy squiggles. More circles. See the leg here. Oops. And we've got to show that although this is a peg leg, you know, this is a fancy character, so let's make it fancy. It's my speaker going off. My cell phone is doing something, so I'm going to move that a little bit further away. And then oh, wrong. There we go. Much better. Show this other arm, a little bit of lace there. Show that big old cuff. God, now he's too complicated again. I can't see squat. Jacket's no good. Something's wrong with the jacket. Are the legs okay? We'll have to see. Legs are okay. Does he lose the jacket? You know what? Maybe he loses the jacket in this particular fight sequence. Still real fancy. Still very heavy. Would he have this big old leg? I don't think so. Those Spaniards have the tight pants, so. There we go. It's always goes back and forth between crazy happy with something and miserable as to how lousy it is. So I was crazy happy just about 2 minutes ago, and now I'm miserable at how lousy it is. I'm wondering, will it ever be even remotely okay? And that's a question that, although asked regularly, it usually is remotely okay. But that doesn't mean that this period in which nothing is working is going to be okay. Well, he looks like a troll. I don't even understand. Like, the upper body is so massive and the lower body is so not. And I wonder if that's because this is too big. So let me shrink that down, and we'll see if that makes a difference. It might. I keep forgetting to talk. Apologies. Okay, so I'm really in my own headspace at this point, just trying to figure this all out. It's gonna have a lot of lace coming off of his shirt, jacket, whatever it might be. So something I'm not taking into account here. As long as I keep a little bit of shadow there for the butt, I think it'll be clear enough that this is doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's still not. Oh, goodness gracious. I try not to get overly frustrated when doing stuff in public, but this isn't exactly in public. You're just getting a glimpse into the private. Let me pull out. Maybe looking at it this way. Nope, still lousy. Is it the hand? Is the hand itself inherently problematic? It might be. What's that upper part? How's this look? This looks okay. Nope, that is too much of a twist. Let me Am I wrong? No, that looks okay. Does it look okay because of the earlier part? Why did I delete that upper area? I should have left it. But if I left it, I wouldn't have known that there was such a problem. Okay, so let's bring this back up. That's the difficulty, is that his general demeanor, whatever you would call it, is flawed. It's too little. Or it's too big. The clarity of the pose is reliant on that much information. I think. Oh, even that is pretty bad. Is it this stuff? Is it that's inherently confusing? It might be. Bring that up. Oh, okay. Back to square one, kind of. Okay, I've debated just scrapping this whole video, because who wants to watch me mess up 1,000 times? But, I don't know. If you're still watching it, maybe you do. So, I will keep, I'll keep at it. Jiminy Christmas. So the thing I mentioned about the clothing being a big part of things, that's clearly important, because once I added that clothing, it created no end of problems. Okay, so I'll try this hand again. And before I put in anything else, I'll throw in the lace and all that jazz. Some puffy sleeve thingies. Maybe I'm making too much of a focus on the other hand. Maybe it should be back farther. Yeah, okay. That's better. Now you're less, it's less like his arm like reaching all the way around. Okay, maybe, just maybe, this could work. Now, can it work if we lose the whole leg there? Nope. So that's a problem, because if we need that leg there, this hand has to be smaller. That's still not right. It's not right, but it's better. What if it's coming out towards us? Us, the audience, I guess. Nope, because then it's behaving according to rules of perspective, not utilized by the rest of the drawing. Thought maybe I could have it, foreshortened to be a little bit larger, but the rest of them isn't foreshortened. Even this leg that should be over here, his arm just keeps getting crazy bulky. Drawing this guy like a, I don't know, yeah, like Puck from Alpha Flight. That's not good. So let's see what we got here. I want to make sure the silhouette value of that hand isn't lost. It's a little rough, but not terrible. Still a little too big. Let's move it up. Question is, if I move it up, do we lose what's happening here? No, that's actually, oh, God, okay. Let's see. What is he, a weasel? That's the sniveliest arm I've ever seen. Okay. I'm going to stand up and do some stuff here. Let's see. Okay, so now my arm is raising up a little bit in the sky. But raising up. Not the worst I've ever seen. I mean, that's the worst I've ever seen, but the idea is not the worst I've ever seen. It's more of a fancy stance. I could buy that. And we'll operate under the assumption that maybe he is got a crazy long wig. Nope, this is still pure terrible. Goodbye, entire drawing. Okay, let me bring him back into play. Is this one really so bad? It is really so bad. So, whoops. Not what I meant to delete there. Every drawing is an emotionally exhausting experience. Doesn't mean that I don't love it, and it doesn't mean that it's not great at the end, but it's kind of like you're doing a game, you know, sports. And, you know, you go in and you're like, we can win this. I feel like we can win this. And then, you know, this is halftime and I'm behind by 15. I still feel confident that I can pull this through and make it to the playoffs, but it's gonna be it's gonna require a lot of effort and energy and that sort of thing. So is he just standing there? I guess he's just standing there. Ugh. Now the plus side of that is that when you do occasionally have victory, the labor which went into it is so much more appreciated because of how difficult that victory was to achieve. So let's do this. Yeah, a little grander scale here. I'm just looking at P. So maybe he's way in the foreground. If this is the solution, I'm going to be furious with myself because this means basically that there's almost nothing needed so far as drawing goes. And I think, sadly, I think that's going to be the solution. Oh, but I didn't realize that he's operating on the same plane as this text. That's no good. That flattens things out. This guy is too, so I need to create a diagonal going this way. This is closer. As much as I don't want it to be the case that I have spent the last 45 minutes trying to figure something out when really all I had to do is draw one giant triangle peg leg and be done with the whole thing. It looks like that might be what the case is. Nope, that diagonal business is not applicable here. Okay, so let's see. Okay. that's not terrible. Actually, I kind of like that. Give him some little matador pant buckle things. I don't think that's really what we have here, but that's okay. Only downside is, would the sword come into play here? Let me capture this guy again. Whoops, that's not a thing. Oh, here we go. Copy, delete. Oh, man. Okay, so... Alright, so I need to combine these two first. Now I can copy, delete, paste it, and... Now the arm still creates a parallel with this RIZ, which I really don't like. And so you know what? As much as I'm scared to do it because I might screw it up, actually, you know what? I'm going to go back, save it, then delete this arm. And we'll see if we can't come up with something better. Yep, that works better. And now you don't have that parallel and everything works out. Okay, so make that the sword here. Yeah, okay. I'm starting to feel it again. I know I said that before, like 10 or 12 times, and that I've been proved a liar on each occasion. But I'm starting to feel a little bit like this may actually work here. Okay. All right. Okay. So yeah, this is seeming okay. Throw in those fancy buckles there. Whoops. There we go. Fancy coat business. All nice and pretty. Throw some buckles over here. That might not be the best position. I don't want it to appear phallic, which it kind of does there. It's always a concern. No, that's no good either. Let's see. What about just the... Nope. Nope. Do I just leave it without? I might just have to leave it without. We'll just assume that this guy has a sword. Oh, or maybe even better. Do we let the sword be there? Ha 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 ha. Maybe. Will it still? Will the rest of this still be legible as saying prize? That's the question. Okay, it will be if I bring this out over here. Nope, that's no good. Okay. Yeah, okay, so then the blade is visible from up here. It's coming from outside of the thing. There we go. Oh, it looks like he's holding it with his left hand, but I don't care. I feel pretty good about that. Okay. All right. I like that. I don't feel like this is tangential with this anymore. Can it? No, I'm not going to bother with the code. I like it as is. Okay. I am going to throw a little bit of sashiness there just to keep it throwing. Okay, that I think actually looks okay. So now comes the next part, hard part, the something part. That's not hard, it's just next. And that part is the I don't know, the Spanish minion soldiers, whatever you want to call them. Now for this, I mentioned that they have carezos already, which are the breastplates, the armor breastplates. Probably they're going to have the little conquistador helmet thing going on too. I have a little conquistador figure, a little Papo figurine that I bought expressly for this purpose. But I lent it to Jackie Lewis a long time ago. I think she gave it back to me, but I think it's still in my office at the school. So I don't actually have that available on hand. Luckily, I think I know it well enough that I can fake it. So the helmets kind of look like that. Draw them all running forward. Give that sense of urgency that everybody's after Catfoot, but he's going after this one guy. I kind of like this. This is looking okay. Same thing over here. I got to make sure that I don't interfere with his silhouette value at all. Make this guy a little heavier in body. Nope, that's no good because that is going to interfere with his foot. It's going to make it tougher to immediately notice what it is that we're supposed to be looking at. Luckily, I've got plenty of room over here. So just got to make sure that it's not going in the same direction. This is going to go here. This is going to go here. They can't line up, so that's important. Another guy over here. That looks okay, I think. Yeah, it looks okay. All right. I just need the breastplates. I'm not too worried about anything else. I'll give them big boots to keep it, period. That part of the period stuff going on. A little bit of a sash. No, I'm going to take away the sash. Sash gives, it gives that sense of dynamism, of movement, of swashbuckleriness. And these guys are supposed to be, more or less the stormtroopers of the fancy, ostentatious empire. They need to be stodgy in a way. So I'm gonna not give them anything to blow in the wind. Everything's gonna be hard edges. Okay, so what was this? I don't even remember what that is, but we're getting rid of it. if I figure out which layer it's on. Okay, now I'm going to figure out the written by Chris Schweitzer bit. And although these are going to be black on, or white on black, I am, whoops, you know what, I'm just going to take this whole thing, copy it so they'll be the same size, and just move it over here. Stretch it out if needs be. There we go. Even though this is going to be white lettering on top of black, I'm going to draw it as black on top of white and simply switch it in the computer, because trying to use any sort of whiteout to do lettering is just purely nightmarish. Hopefully that won't hurt the appeal to original art collectors. I don't know, I always tend to gravitate more towards original art that showcases some kind of, that doesn't look like the final piece exactly, because there was considerations for how it was going to be made. Okay, so this is where the starring Scott Moyle and Greg Taylor will come in, and then up here is where I'll have my featuring Kappa CROGAN. There you go. Okay, that looks pretty good, but there are no environments whatsoever, and it gives no sense of place. So that's what I'm going to handle next. And some architecture of this period, like the piratey stuff, is going to have a lot of like crossed timbers and sort of swoopy roofs, but the Spanish stuff tends to be on more like hard plains. The roofs are at an angle, but they tend to be flat with the tile tops, so I'm trying to figure out what's going to be the best means by which to depict this. I kind of don't mind like flattening these guys out in the background here, because they're meant to be background. I want my eyes, or my audience's eyes, to go to Admiral Montero and Catfoot here. I'll work this in. Let's see. Give it some archway. Make sure they don't mix up with the leg there. Nope, that's no good, because now the arch would be directly behind his foot. This arch would be behind his foot. And again, it sort of flattens everything out. So here's that part. Here's that part. When I do Spanish architecture, and I may be entirely incorrect in terms of the accuracy here, but Spanish colonial architecture, in my mind, I'm always mimicking the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, which I went on often as a kid. There we go. My grandparents lived in Orlando. There was a lot of overlap between their lives and their friends, many of whom worked for the parks. And so we often got in free, at least when I was older. I'm not sure when I was really little. I imagine my parents probably paid for it. And I don't want to give the impression of ingratitude for not recognizing their sacrifices there, because we likely could not have regularly afforded it in those early days. Let me see. So here's that swoopy bit of business here. Same thing. We'll make that like a little bell tower or something. Palm trees. But anyway, that's one of the reasons I liked Pirates in the first place, was because of that ride. So anytime I can sort of give reference to it, because of the angle, you're not going to see like wells or anything like that, although I'll throw a well in here. There we go. Because, a well. It could be a bridge and an archway. But all this is basically, I'm going to be looking up at it. Show some shuttered windows there. And you know what? It would kind of be nice to see a little bit of a tropical hill. You know, what's worth the protecting on this island, this tropical island? You know, that's a fancy tropically place. You know, seagulls abound, something. No, seagulls would be too much. I like the seagulls, but you know, this part's here. I can maybe hint at some buildings on the hill. Should probably reference these, but okay. And there we go. I'm pretty happy with that. Let me zoom in a little bit. Make sure everything looks okay. So this is the overall appearance. I've got the Cintiq here set on a vertical thing as opposed to horizontal, just because generally speaking I'm working on pages as opposed to these horizontal images, but I think that this will probably work. So at this point I'm going to save it, because to not do so would be foolish. And I am going to merge all of these layers together, because that's make the print a little bit easier. So now I'm going to change it from mode, and at this point I will hold the camera so that I can show what's going on. Okay, so now I go over to Image, Mode, Grayscale, Don't Flatten, and now Image, Mode, Duotone. There we go. And so now this has changed it to light blue. I had to set my duotone before, but this gives me the opportunity to have it in light blue, and I'll print it out in light blue. Sorry, holding the camera and operating stuff is a little bit tricky. So I'm going to lower the opacity on this to about 30%. Actually, I'll bring it up to about 36. And now I'm just going to print it on 11 by 17. Dun, dun, dun!